up fast enough as local hospitals are seeing spikes in hospitalizations. Nearly 120 patients are in-house right now at University Hospital. Brady Trapnell is there live. And Brady, what are hospital officials saying about this spike?
Laura, hospital officials here at University say this vaccine is sort of creating a false sense of security, and they're seeing that in real time right here as this situation grows more dire by the minute, and this surge continues to increase and will likely continue over the next several weeks. Now, University Hospital has watched, unfortunately, several records be broken overnight. For the most patients admitted in 24 hours for COVID-19 at 31, and also for the most hospitalized patients since the start of the pandemic. They've opened up 2 negative pressure COVID units at their main hospital, and officials say they could open another here shortly. Meanwhile, it was the first full days of vaccinations at the Charlie Norwood VA. They say they're continuing to vaccinate healthcare staff, starting with those treating COVID patients on the front lines. University Hospital says they're also waiting on notification from the Department of Public Health for when they'll receive a shipment, and they need it, of course, for their healthcare workers as well.
We've already have plans in place to vaccinate our really healthcare workers that are at the front lines taking care of patients. Thanksgiving has caused us to have a surge here, and we don't see it stopping.
University Hospital also says their staffing struggles continue, and they're hoping the vaccine will at least keep some of those healthcare workers on the front lines to treat these patients. And we're getting some news from AU Health about their vaccine plans. We'll explain those on News 12 at 6 o'clock.
All right, Brady, thank you. Taking a look at cases across the 2 states. In Georgia, more than 488,000 cases now total. The positivity rate sitting just above 9%. In South Carolina, more than 241,000 cases. The testing positivity rate there above 20%, which is some of the highest positivity rates we've seen throughout the pandemic. Want to tell you about a tornado warning in Tampa a little earlier. We've got live pictures down there. One has touched down in Pinellas County, and damage has been reported according to the Tampa Bay Times. We're taking a look. You can see the cameras down there kind of scanning the skyline. But, Riley, you were talking about some damage that's been reported down there.
Yeah, we did get confirmation that there was a tornado that did touch down, and still no word on exactly how she hit in just a little bit.
Back to coronavirus news. More frontline workers in hospitals around the country and here at home are receiving the COVID-19 vaccine as cases continue to rise. But as Elise Preston reports, a panel of experts will vote tomorrow to recommend a second vaccine for approval.
Vulnerable nursing home residents in Florida have started to receive Pfizer's coronavirus vaccine.
Our residents of long-term care facilities are more susceptible to negative outcomes.
Frontline workers from coast to coast continue to get their first doses of the vaccine.
The overwhelming percentage of the population will accept the vaccine. If we do that, we will get a veil or an umbrella of herd immunity over the population.
The drug maker is now investigating a report of a health worker in Alaska who suffered a severe reaction to the shot. This amid new promise for a second coronavirus vaccine. An FDA advisory panel has confirmed the safety and efficacy of one produced by Moderna, which could be approved for emergency use as early as Friday.
As the rollout continues, hospitals here in the Northeast scramble to get shipments of Pfizer's coronavirus vaccine ahead of today's major winter storm.
These healthcare workers at Elmhurst Hospital in New York City rolled up their sleeves and tried to build confidence in the vaccine.
You have to do your own research, and everybody has to make their own decisions, but not to be afraid of the vaccine.
In Central and Southern California, nearly 90% of ICU beds are full. Governor Gavin Newsom is putting more mobile morgues on standby and sending another 5,000 body bags to hotspots around the state. Elise Preston, CBS News, New York.
Officials in Alaska say the health worker who suffered the reaction to the Pfizer vaccine did not have a history of allergies. More restrictions being placed on businesses and restaurants across the country, making many owners scared they won't survive, something we've already started to see at home, unfortunately. Most businesses still not operating at full capacity to try to help slow the spread of the virus. The Independent Restaurant Coalition says 500,000 independent restaurants and 11 million jobs could be lost because of the pandemic. It's now pushing Congress to pass the Restaurants Act, which provides funds for small restaurants and bars.
There's a letter to sign that asks Congress to please act on this bill, because for every day that this relief is not provided, it's another restaurant that's closing, a bar that's closing, jobs that are going away forever, and dreams that are dashed.
The Restaurants Act would provide $120 billion worth of funding for those businesses. A new COVID relief bill appears to finally be making its way, and we could be getting more money in our bank accounts. Leaders from both parties and the Treasury Secretary met until last night to hammer out a compromise deal. The bill would total about $900 billion, including direct stimulus checks, likely in the $600 per person range.
We made major headway toward hammering out a targeted pandemic relief package that would be able to pass both chambers with bipartisan majorities. We committed to continuing these urgent discussions until we have an agreement, and we agreed we will not leave town until we've made law.
Just days before Christmas, London is moving to an even stricter lockdown. Today, a London theater boarded up, the signs reading "Do not enter" and "closed." Pubs and restaurants were ordered to close, and now only takeout is allowed there. The lockdown on businesses will be eased for 5 days around Christmas, and while some think it's a good idea, others not on board.
Yeah, I think it is a good idea if it keeps people safe and, protects people going back to Christmas from kind of infecting their families and stuff. I think it's got to be done.
I think it should be self-regulated. I think you'll work it out for yourselves. If you want to keep your families safe, then you'll do just that, and you'll make the right decision.
In the UK, nearly 65,000 people have died from the virus, making it the second hardest hit country in Europe after Italy. Soon we could see the first openly gay cabinet secretary in U.S. history. Today, President-elect Joe Biden officially announced the nomination of Pete Buttigieg. They called on him to be transportation secretary for their administration. This is the first selection that President-elect Biden has tapped one of his former Democratic presidential opponents to join his administration as a cabinet secretary.
Thank you so much for entrusting me with this opportunity to serve the American people. I am humbled by your confidence, eager to do everything in my power to ensure that this administration succeeds.
Vice President-elect Kamala Harris joined that event virtually. She praised what she called Buttigieg's sharp intellect and deep commitment to uniting people across party lines. A Chicago woman whose home was wrongfully raided by police speaking out, demanding answers from the mayor. A warning, some of this video you might find disturbing. Ann Jeanette Young says police did not treat her with decency and respect. In February of last year, officers busted through her door with a no-knock warrant. Police admitted they obtained the warrant with wrong information, but the video shows Young standing naked and handcuffed as officers search her house. Later, as officers look at their paperwork, Young continues to ask to put her clothes on. She's taken to another room, still handcuffed, now covered with a blanket to get dressed. Attorneys argue the video should have been released sooner than nearly 2 years after the raid. They say officers should have been held accountable immediately.
Working as a social worker, I've spent over 20 years working with families who deal with trauma, helping families through hard situations. And it's very surreal and overwhelming to live this experience.
And I'm not going to sit here and tell you that we've solved every problem, but we responded to what we were seeing was way too many circumstances of officers going into the wrong home.
The mayor says the city has since changed its search warrant protocol. She denies knowing anything about the raid until this week. Walmart shoppers, listen up. The company is letting you know the deadline for 2-day shipping is this Saturday. For next-day delivery, you'll need to place those orders by next Monday. Of course, these dates only apply if you want the gifts in time for Christmas, which most of you probably do. For in-store pickup, orders must be placed by December 23rd at 4 p.m. They say shipping is being strained. There's an overload of orders, and vaccine shipping is slowing down some of the rest of the orders as well, so heads up. But the U.S. Postal Service seems to be feeling the exact same strain. They call it a historic year for them. They have been stretched to their limits. We have the election, obviously the vaccines now being shipped. This comes as they are overwhelmed by the amount of mail. And the company is also facing an employee shortage. They are seeing surging COVID cases among their ranks. USPS asking you to send gifts and cards as soon as possible to avoid delays. Waiting could mean your gifts arrive after Christmas at this point. Well, baseball fans, if you were hoping for a full season, you might be out of luck. MLB owners want players vaccinated before any kind of season starts. The Players Union says they proved last year they could hold games safely. While owners don't mind a shortened season, players know that means shortened salaries. And when you're talking about the kind of bucks that they make, you want to get every dime you can. Last year, teams played 60 games, but players want to return to their 162-game season and their paychecks. Staying on the diamond, the MLB officially upgrading its history books to include the Negro League. Stats from around 3,400 players from 1920 to 1948 will now be included in MLB records. The MLB commissioner says the move corrects a long-time oversight in the game's history. This year is actually the 100th anniversary of the founding of the Negro Leagues. Well, it's been raining here on and off, but farther up north, some places preparing for up to a foot of snow. How states are gearing up for the first winter storm of the season.
And we have seen a wet Wednesday so far today, but we do look better as we head later into the week. We'll take a look at that full forecast coming up.
And our friends north of us gearing up for a powerful winter storm. And you can see that is already pretty much there in New York. They are already getting pounded with snow. The East Coast, some areas expecting up to 2 feet of snow. Live look here once again from New York City, but not that you can really tell that. Naomi Rockham is there where people are preparing for the worst.
With more than 60 million people in the path of a massive winter storm, shoppers are stocking up.
There's lines in the store already. People are shopping like crazy, buying everything.
At hardware stores, shovels are going fast.
I mean, it's the first snowstorm. We have plenty of product.
In Philadelphia alone, 80 plows are standing by, with the city expecting as much as a foot of snow.
I grew up in New England, so this is nostalgic for me.
After blanketing Oklahoma, the storm now threatens 1,000 miles from North Carolina through New England. Some areas could see up to 2 feet of snow.
I suspect where it may move around is where it's rain, where it's slush, where it's mixed, where it's snowing. It will do all 4 of those.
Here in New York City, road crews say they are ready for this storm. They'll salt the streets before the snow falls, and once the system has moved out, overnight it's all about plowing whatever they can. Restaurants already struggling to stay afloat were ordered to close outdoor dining before the storm arrives. Nick Versus took it in stride.
We'll close if we need to. It's not like I'm getting a ton of revenue that I need to stay open.
Mayor Bill de Blasio says the weather will not get in the way of deliveries of the COVID vaccine.
It's a storm, but it is a storm so far still staying in a pretty limited range, that kind of 8 inches to 12 inches range for a limited period of time.
But shipping companies are keeping an extra close watch on the forecast. If the storm does cripple highways, they'll need a plan B to get this precious cargo to distribution points around the country. Naomi Rockham, CBS News, New York.
And with so many people working from home this year, state officials are hoping that limited traffic will make it easier for road crews to clear the way out there for those delivery trucks. Changes on how much student athletes get paid could be coming. This, as the Supreme Court says, they'll take up the case.
Gold Mac and News 1226 want to see your lighted holiday fix. Share a photo of your Christmas lights. You might see them on TV one of these weeknights. Wrdw.com is the place to go, so send us your pics and make our site glow.
It's advertising.
New today, the U.S. Supreme Court says it will take up a case considering limits on how much a student athlete can be compensated. Comes after the NCAA put a limit on education-related benefits for athletes, things like computers, musical instruments, and post-grad scholarships. A federal appeals court then ruled those limits violated antitrust laws. The NCAA is now appealing that decision, arguing loosening the limits on compensation could blur the line between college and professional athletes. The Supreme Court is expected to hear the case early next year, with a decision expected by July. Nobody likes lost luggage. That is why United Airlines is launching this new state-of-the-art baggage system they say will lessen the chances. It will have 4 continuous loops around the room. It will take a picture of each luggage bag instead of just the barcode. It can also handle a reroute for connecting flights instead of a handler having to manually find and transfer that bag. Once it's complete, there will be more than 6 miles of conveyor belts that can process 10,000 bags an hour. Houston, Texas will be the first spot to use this new system, and it's expected to be done by mid-2022. But hallelujah, let's hope it works. Vaccines are rolling out across the country. Our veterans, some of the first to receive them. This is 94-year-old World War II veteran John Moen rolling up his sleeves, getting that shot. The veteran is one of the first people to get the vaccine in Arizona and the first to get it at the Phoenix VA hospital. VA centers are top priority across the country. We've seen that here at home, and he's one of the few World War II veterans still alive. He says it's his way of saying thank you to healthcare workers.
Well, they needed some volunteers, and you guys have been keeping me alive, so why shouldn't I try? I would have died if I didn't come in here. Oh. So at least I owe you something. So now I'm paying you back.
So his way of paying it forward. I think that vaccine will be paying it forward to a lot of people, Riley.
Definitely will. Good to see him in good spirits there. We are trying